welcome to the Ugly Stick Fantasy League. I'm Ashley.
Hey, I'm Jacob, and I'm your commissioner. This is your commissioner speaking.
Yep, now this is the first take that we've done for this today, correct? Okay, so...
Yeah, nothing else has gone on.
Okay, so just to kind of say, we still don't have a name for the podcast yet, so it would be good if some people could suggest a name. But otherwise, we're kind of open to anything that's hockey related. And I mentioned before in the practice run we did for this podcast that I would like it to be something to do with puck. But I don't really have power to determine it. But
do you have any forerunners? Do you have anything that's like jumped out at you?
No, I haven't thought of anything good at all. Otherwise, I would have already renamed it. I would have taken the initiative, but I can't think of anything funny. I'm just not funny.
We're not very good at what we do.
Funny or creative, and I don't know anything about hockey, so all three of those things.
It's a trifecta of not being able to name a podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. The other thing is, I've had some comments in the group chat that we've started some kind of fashion trend. Well, I have at least, with the sunglasses and the hat. And I believe you want to join in today as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you have me in your team, I've prepared this before.
Okay.
The sunglasses. I've gone the beanie. I've gone the traditional Canadian. What do you think? Can I join? Can I join the team?
Yeah, sure. Are we talking about the podcast team? The podcast team?
Yeah. The hat, glasses wearing.
Okay. Yeah.
Team. I mean, I've never been part of a group before, so I don't know.
Bit awkward.
How to get myself involved.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So I just wanted to mention: do you recognize these sunglasses that I'm wearing?
I believe, and this is like straight off the top of my head, never mentioned before, that one of the other members, the old owner of Puck University, and myself had a song about those sunglasses.
That's true. Back in high school, still got them.
Back in the day,
strong. I think Tim probably remembers them better than you do, but
Yeah, we'll quiz him on that one when we eventually get him on the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other kind of hockey related or stories you'd want to share before we get into it?
Yeah. Look at this guy.
Okay. Yep. So
this
anyone who's not aware what that is, you really should be.
Yeah, this is the Lord Davo Stanley Cup. This is what we're playing for.
Fantastic.
Obviously an identical replica of the actual Lord Stanley Cup. It's a little known fact that the Lord Stanley Cup is actually made out of Milo tins and a salad bowl. Yeah, in fact,
only
they
a
keep
select
that.
few.
Yeah, and it's about 10 people in this league, the only people that know that.
And it just so happens that those people are the only people who are in a chance to win it as well. Coincidence? I think
that's
not.
It. That's almost finished the first week, so I reckon it's time to bring that out and remember why we're doing this.
Yeah. It gives a bit of motivation to the boys sitting in the locker rooms after a hard day of fantasy.
It's not for the fame or the money or anything else, it's for the opportunity to touch this glorious cup.
It's true. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get on to some player highlights. So, how would you normally kind of rate players at this stage of the season? Are you looking on NHL? What kind of websites are you using?
So I think the easiest way to do it is using the Yahoo Fantasy website.
Yep.
Basically, it ranks everyone using the numbers that it's generated. I think one thing that's important to remember about the rankings for Yahoo is it ranks based mainly on your primary stats, so your goals and your assists and those things that every single league has.
Yep.
So those secondary stats like hits, blocks, face-off wins don't really carry the same amount of power in this, when you're looking at the rankings. So while you are looking at a ranking, remember to look at all the rankings. And Tim gave us a good tip about that, which we'll bring up a bit later on.
That's true. He did. Okay. So any kind of highlight players? We're kind of getting near the end of week one now. One more day of play. Anyone who's really kind of surprised you at this stage of the season, as early as it may be?
Yeah, so you expect players in the top 100 players to be kind of roughly where you'd expect them to be, like Alex Ovechkin's right at the top, Sidney Crosby's right at the top, Tyler Sagan, Wayne Simmons, they're all names that you're pretty happy to be up there. One player I've noticed, he's sitting probably around about 10th, somewhere in there, is Mika Zibanejad.
For the Rangers.
He playing for the Rangers. The Rangers are terrible at the moment.
He's ranked 15.
I think they're 15. There you go. The Rangers are probably maybe last in the league, and just absolutely hamming this season so far. After a big talk in preseason, a lot of pundits saying they're a shout. They're a shout for going a long way, but haven't seen it yet. But one player that is actually doing all right in a fantasy perspective is Zibanejad. So
he's
we'll have a quick
66% owned, so obviously early season. Only God forgives.
Yeah.
Actually, that's my opponent this week. What are you trying to do here?
Ooh. Oh well, he already owes him. But five goals in the opening 6 games. For a team that's struggling, this player is actually stepping up and doing the work.
Okay. Yep. Anyone else?
So yeah, that's one player I'd like to point out. The other one is one of my favourites. The bad boy of hockey is Evander Kane. He was ranked 113th overall before the start of the season. He's the kind of guy that, if he doesn't get picked up, you're kind of like, meh. He's currently sitting 12th. He's got 4 goals, 3 assists. He's got, a bunch of shots on goals. What's that? 30 of them. 14 hits. He's just producing in every category. His touted as a left winger, but with the new rules on face-offs, we're seeing a lot of wingers being thrown into the face-off dot, and so wingers are actually starting to pick up face-off wins. So he's also a little bit handy to get some of those, face-off wins knocked up just a little bit higher.
Would you mind explaining that rule, please?
The rule change? Yes. All right. So basically, the rule's always been in place, but on the face-off dot, there's a circle, and then there's kind of 2 half box shapes. So, and basically what it is skaters have to be each foot has to be within those lines. So if that means a box. And if they touch any of the linesmen have been told to throw them out, basically. So there's a lot more guys getting thrown out of the face-off dot this year than there was in previous seasons.
What lines? What lines can't they touch?
They're kind of like 4 lines that like make a kind of. There's a lot more players that are being kicked out of the face-off dot, so these centres aren't winning as many face-offs, but the wingers are getting more opportunities to win them.
Okay.
So
some possible
basically,
points.
yeah, especially where it's just it's not going to be a huge number of points, but it's going to be those additional few points, and in a tight week, where the league's pretty tight, it could be the difference between winning or losing a week. Really,
we've all been there. We've all been there and lost in face-offs or something, and just gone down, for that week.
I know one year that I won the goalie stats. I won the week based on my save percentage, which was recalculated to 3 decimal points for the win.
There you go.
So
this is what it takes to be a champion. That's what it takes to be a champion.
That's right. You have to grind out those points and think about, wherever you can pick them up. And, 9 face-off wins is still 9 face-off wins more than you had in pick him up.
All right. Anyone else?
I'd also like to really quickly, I know we spoke about last week, but talk about goaltenders.
Mm-hmm.
Because goaltending this year is off the chain.
Mm.
It is completely different ball game.
There's been some amazing highlights already. We're not even done with week 1. Some amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So the average last year was about a 920 save percentage. On the odd week, if you had a weaker week and your opponent had week to week. He could win with, high 800s. This year, the league is basically changing the rules around, so there's more emphasis on attacking hockey, exciting hockey, more shots, more goals. So basically that's bringing the goalies into the fray more, and they're seeing more shots and they're making more saves. And 920, I think, isn't even going to cut it anymore. The top ranked goalies. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The first 12 ranked goalies in the league are all above a 920 save percentage, which is, massive. The Vezina Trophy winner at this point could go at, 940, 950 save percentage, which is, 2% over a whole season is a massive increase. So, yeah, I just wanted to point that out that, we're seeing crazy changes in goalies. And, if you're not having one of those goalies in the top tier, then it's going to be a struggle to win those points.
Yeah, probably a bit too late for the hockey fans, but I did realise after my first season that you really have to be using one of your top draft picks on a top quality goaltender. And you'll notice a lot of people are going to even use their keepers on their goalies because, if you have one good goalie, he's going to get 3, 4, 5, 6 appearances a week. It's going to be a lot of points.
And I think it's also interesting to point out, specifically for our league, of the top-ranked goalies, so the first one, Corey Crawford, was kept, but then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goalies weren't keepers.
Mm.
And I think it kind of shows a lot of these players are from teams that are considered weaker teams this year. So I think it shows that, we're seeing a lot more shots, but maybe we're not seeing more quality shots on goalies. We're just seeing the number increase, and they're making more saves, and the save percentage is going up, but the quality isn't of those shots. The scoring chances aren't necessarily going up.
Interesting theory. Bishop and I think it was Jake Allen, sorry.
Yep.
Jake Allen has done some amazing stuff. You can see he was a keeper.
You reckon a couple of minutes on, we'll just look at the matchups for the week. Basically, we're coming into the last day. Tomorrow is, the Monday. It's the final day of our league. And, there's really only one matchup that's looking like it might be, it might go down to the wire. And, that's Brian's best team and the Rusty Trombones. Sitting at 6-5. They've got 2 categories that are tied. Either team could win this going into the final day. So it's a pretty exciting one.
There's goalie stats, just like we were talking about.
Yeah, that's right. It's it's big. And I think
Anderson. Oh, he's got Lundqvist as well. Pretty good. Carey Price, Brandon Holtby. What kind of goalie lineups?
Yeah, he got. If you have a look, the 3Ks are all next to those goalie names
about
there.
To say, it's amazing.
Yeah, when you're talking about goalies that are, being important, that's Brian's definitely learned that lesson early on, and he's kept 3, really high performing goalies here. Look at Crawford. We were talking about him, but 9.55. Yeah, he's having a bit of a struggle, but he's got to get used to a bit of a different team in front of him. He'll come good. So that game, it's kind of interesting because the stats that each team has won in that game have been pretty comprehensively won. But the stats that are close, there's 2 ties, are going to make or break this week, like turn of fortune can make, all the difference here. So, I'll be watching this match pretty closely come tomorrow. How's your team going?
A bit of a slow start, but the boys have really rallied, I feel, these last few days. I mean, I wasn't feeling too good about it. I didn't even log in and check. I mean, I set the roster, but they just weren't inspiring me to go in and check and see what was going on. So I did have to give a bit of a back seat, but fair enough. They noticed I was absent from the locker rooms, and they have really picked their game up. I've got to say, and it's good to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all well and good
So-
to be salaried players and get paid, but you got to hit the ground running from day one. And that they came together. They said it wasn't good enough, and I think my message got through clear enough, even though I didn't really say anything. So
Yeah.
happy with the boys.
Your lack of words was enough
Yeah.
to make the boys realise that
I
they
think
need
so.
to do more.
I'm happy with them.
So currently up 8-4. It's going to be interesting to see. It's still pretty close, even though it's 8-4 in your favour.
Well, it was
The big
just
day.
there was a bit of a big swing recently because he was up by about 2 or 3 points. So I've come
Yeah.
back and won about 6 categories in the last few
Yeah.
days. But yeah, you're right. Very close. We'll say we've got a few points here and there. Not much separating. I had a terrible goalie start, and at least my goalies are clawing back a bit. But luckily I got a shutout when he started off the week with a shutout. So we'll see how we go, I guess. But,
Yeah.
Goalies aren't doing either of us much.
So one of my favourite things about week 1 is because it is a long week. This gives us a chance, and we'll discuss this next week. But it gives you a chance to break some of the records for most, for everything, because you got 10 days rather than the normal 7 or whatever it was this week to set these records. So yeah, I'm seeing some big numbers up there at the moment, and I mean it's hard to compare everyone, everything that's happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few numbers, stats broken this year, especially, with more shots, with more goals. Look at, there's players scoring goals left, right, and centre now. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this year compares to the last few.
Okay. All right. So should we move on to some fantasy tip of the week? I guess.
Yeah. So, fantasy tip of the week was submitted by Puck University.
You can do it. I'll see if I can add anything. I think you'll be able to capture it, mate. I've got confidence.
All right. So, basically, Tim, Puck University, I do like this tip. It's a good tip. Basically, what he said is you can win any given week, but unless you understand how your team is doing compared to all the teams, that doesn't really mean a lot. So when he compares his stats to the match he's got this week, he looks like he's got this really outrageously strong team. He's going to win everything. But what he does is he then goes and compares that week's stats to all the other teams in the league. He does it by taking a screenshot and then comparing what he's got with what everyone else has in the league. He does that on the phone. And then basically if he gets an injury or if something happens, he knows, all right, well, I need to pick up someone that needs more hits. So I'm going to search based on that category. Or I need someone that, more face-offs. So I'm going to search someone in that category. So on the app, so go on.
I was just agreeing with you, but I was just going to say, I'll just go in a bit more detail about that injury thing. So for those of you unaware, when you look in your team, you'll have a slot down the bottom here, injured reserve. Okay? So what you can do is you put an injured player. So at the moment I've got Mikael Granlund. He's injured. He'll be back in a week or so though. But, he's not getting points, so you put him on the injured reserve. And that enables you to add another player, okay? You get 4 adds per week. So you can put this Mikael on injury, and then you can add a player. And I believe I added... Who was it? It was Nazim. Can't remember now. Whoever it was. Could look in, I guess. Thingy.
Yeah, we can have a look. Who did you add? You added Varlamov.
Wenberg. No, wait. Yeah, Wenberg. That's right. Then I got rid of Brandon Suter. So, and then what I did is I was like, well, I want to add a player maybe who's doing well in goals. So you go to players, all available players, and then you can click at the top of any of these columns and it'll show you who's winning categories. So then you could pick up that guy. Sure, they might not be scoring many goals, but they could help you win another category. And Jacob, I believe we talked about this during the draft. But, a category is a category.
That's right.
It's not some kind of, hockey stick measuring contest.
That's definitely not what it is. I mean,
who cares if you win goals every week if you're losing assists every week and then you're losing face-offs? I mean, get out of here.
Yeah,
you
can lead the league in goals. Yeah, if you lead the league in goals but you don't win any other category, you're still losing the matches. Yeah,
exactly. So that was a good tip from Tim in that when the week's winding down, maybe you've still got your 4 picks. So, per week you get 4. So you might as well maybe chuck a guy on injured reserve, pick up that kind of niche player, and then maybe you're ready for the upcoming week. And, when your other player's off injury, sure, maybe you can drop him or drop someone else underperforming. But that's what you have to do. You do have to, when you move your guy out of injury reserve, you do have to drop someone then because your roster will be over. But anyway, I think that was a good tip, Tim. But it's all about, I guess the philosophy is, it's a trite point, really, but it's about, managing your team. This is not a week-by-week thing here. If you're going to be serious and go for the cup, it's got to be a day-by-day, kind of thing. It's required sacrifice. I don't think a lot of people in the league realize this, but there's not many champions, so I guess it speaks for itself.
That's right.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I reckon that's a
good fantasy tip. Yep. Anything else you'd like to add with a fantasy tip?
Yeah, so a quick way of doing that is if you're using your computer, you can bring up the stat tracker, and there is a section on there that is league stats, and that'll show you your team compared to the rest of the league. So that's a nice quick way of doing it. And the other way is through the record book, but we'll have a check of the record book next week because it doesn't open until tomorrow.
Anything you'd like to mention about how to use this stat tracker?
Yeah, so basically if you look at your team, it'll compare you with your direct competition. If you click on your matchup on the left-hand side.
Oh yeah, league.
That'll show you everything compared to the rest of the league and how you're going. So that's really handy.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that one's really handy to sort of see how you're going with, compared to other things. So if you look at this straight off the bat, you can see Puck University
it's top.
Sitting pretty on top. He's basically in every stat, he's not looking too bad. Goal games, he's got the lowest number of games played, but of course that's not a stat that you worry about, so his points per game is very high. And yeah, like you said, hits. He's at 51 hits. It's the lower end of the middle of the table. It's not the worst in the league, but it's definitely not great, so that's something he's going to look to improve.
Yeah, both his hits and his blocks, I would say, probably aren't that good. But
yeah,
otherwise,
exactly.
I mean, he's got 11... is that game-winning goals, GWG?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11 game-winning goals, 18 power play points, and equal goals and assists. So very consistent team.
So if you look at Phaneuf Said, which is my team below him, you can see I've got no game-winning goals. So he could, and I've got 99 hits, which is third best in the league. So he could potentially say, "Hey, let's do a trade here. I've got players that are putting up game-winning goals. Obviously, it's going to take away from the goal stat too, but he's got a bit of breathing room in that category. And he's going to look at players that are putting up hits and blocks, which, I'm not doing too badly in either of those categories."
But I think, we did mention before that categories are even, but I'm not really sure. I mean, if you look at, for example, shots on goal, that's probably the most important stat out of these ones. Wait, who's on? Oh, I'm on top of that one. It's pretty good. 194 shots on goal.
Oh, I see why that's the most important now. Okay.
And Puck University is a fair bit away from me, but okay.
Yeah, it is, but it's not, because at the end of the day, that stat is still compared to, that stat of the person you're playing, and it's still only worth, the one category win. So, yeah, like I see it as everything's important. Don't try and sway this towards the category you're winning.
Okay, well, I'm just saying. All right, so that's, I think we'll wrap it up with our fancy tip of the week.
Yeah.
So now I believe we're up to the quiz section. This has proven to be very, very popular between us two. You know, we've been talking about it a lot. Hopefully the rest of the team can get on board, but I believe you want to do the quiz this week.
Yeah, I've made a couple of notes. So I thought, what is something about hockey that we probably don't know enough about? And one of the things that came to me was the trophies. Right? There's a whole bunch of trophies. Why? Like, what are they for? You know, how did they come about? What's a bit of the history behind them? So that's where my quiz is going today. So
I had a chance if it had something to do with current players. I had a chance. And now you're going to ask me about historical stuff and the culture of the game? Oh, you got no hope.
Oh, well.
No hope.
Well, it's going to be okay because I'm going to give you a bit of trivia about these trophies first.
Okay. So
and then
like a learning experience.
Hopefully, yeah, like at the end of this we'll come out and we'll all know a little bit more about hockey.
Okay. Let's go.
So, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Question 1 is about the Hart Trophy.
Okay.
So, the Hart Trophy was donated by David Hart in 1923. David Hart was the father of Cecil Hart, who was a long-time NHL coach for the Habs. The first time the trophy was awarded was 1923-24 season, and it's been awarded 92 times to 56 different players.
Wow, okay. A lot of double-ups there.
Yeah, plenty of double-ups. The award recipient is determined by the members of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, which is similar to a lot of the trophies that are still currently given out. Previous recipients include Frank Niber in 1924, the initial recipient. Wayne Gretzky has won this bad boy 9 times. 8 of them were consecutive.
Pretty good.
Joe Thornton previously won it, and he was the only player to win it while he played for 2 different teams in the season. So he got traded mid-season and won this trophy.
He's still playing, right? He's on the Sharks, right?
And he's still playing, yep.
Sharks?
And Carey Price, Sharks, I believe, yeah. And Carey Price is the most recent goalie to win it.
Oh, right. I know. Was that last year?
No, he did not win it last year.
Oh, was it the year before?
Not this particular. It was a few years ago now. It wasn't super recent.
He won.
3.
He won something last year.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 years ago. He won the Vezina last year, I believe.
Yeah, I know he won something last year. Anyway.
So my question for you is, what is the Hart Memorial Trophy awarded for? So last year it was won by Connor McDavid. The year before it was won by Patrick Kane.
People with Irish descent.
Close. It's the league MVP. All right, so the Art Ross Trophy. So off the bat, do you know what it's awarded for?
I haven't even heard of it before. At least I'd heard of the Hart Trophy.
All right. So the Art Ross Trophy is named after the late Arthur Howley Art Ross. He was a player and then an NHL executive from 1905 to 1954. He was a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, and he was also credited with creating the modern hockey puck with the beveled edges. Art presented the cup to the league in the 1947-48 season. It's been awarded 65 times to only 27 different players.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Penguins players have won it 15 different times. And here's a cool stat for you. The Edmonton Oilers have won it 8 times. Gretzky is 7 of those 8.
Yeah, okay.
Connor McDavid is the other one. Gretzky's won 10 in total.
Who else did he play for?
He played for St. Louis very briefly and the Rangers. Yeah, Rangers. And LA.
And LA. Oof.
Yeah.
He would have got a fair bit of
money. He got traded around in his late career. Oh, man. He made the LA franchise what it is. So anyway, after all that, what is the Art Ross Trophy awarded for?
Okay, well, I guess I'll just go for most goals.
It's very, very close. That's actually the Rocket Richard Trophy. It's actually the most points in a regular season.
Okay, that's a better metric, actually.
All right, the Lady Byng Trophy. So, Marie Evelyn Morton, also known as Lady Byng, was an avid hockey fan. She donated the Lady Byng Trophy to the NHL in 1925. Frank Bauer of the New York Rangers won this cup 7 times in 8 years, between 1927-28 season and 1934-35 season. Lady Byng was so impressed by that feat that she gave the cup to Boucher and donated a second trophy to the league to continue awarding. The Wayne Gretzky. So I'm liking my Gretzky stats here.
Yeah, jeez.
Wayne Gretzky
Get off his dick.
has held this trophy for a record 5 times. The current trophy winner is currently Johnny Hockey, Mr. Goudreau. And basically the trophies awarded for the player are judged to have exhibited the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high playing ability. The initial recipient was Frank Nibar in 1924. What other trophy that was awarded for the first time did Frank Nibar win the year before? So he won the Hart Memorial Trophy, the first time it was ever awarded in 1924.
Yeah.
And then in 1925, he won the Lady Byng Trophy, the first time it was ever awarded.
I should have gone. I did actually even twig. Should have gone with instincts. That's all I have. That's all I have in this. I don't have any memory of these things. I've got to go off instincts, and I didn't trust them. Okay. Yeah,
you got to trust your gut. All right, last one. Last quiz question.
Okay.
All right. So the Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup is presented to the team who wins the final best-of-7 series between the final remaining team in the East and the final remaining team in the Western Conference. To get to the Stanley Cup finals, a team plays 82 regular season games and then 3 best-of-7 series. That means a team can play a maximum of 110 games across a 10-month season. The cup itself is a replica of the original that they currently award. The trophy weighs 15.5 kilograms. It is made of silver and nickel alloy, and it's approximately 90 centimeters tall. Mm-hmm. The cup is held by a custodian, of which there have been 9 since 1893. The Stanley Cup is unlike all other major US sporting trophies, as it is the same trophy is given every single year. In all other major sports in the US, a new trophy is created to give to the team. The cup was commissioned in 1892 and first awarded in 1983, and it's considered one of the oldest sporting trophies to still be awarded.
I thought it was the oldest.
Mike, there's some contention. The America's Cup is older, but it's not.
Sailing
isn't
given
a sport, annually.
Right? Sailing isn't a sport.
And also the Scottish Cup in soccer is older.
Soccer isn't a sport either.
Yeah, so really, when we look at it, it is the oldest sporting trophy. So my question is, what country is the second oldest ice hockey trophy awarded in? And we got bonus points if you can tell me what the cup is called.
I'm just going to go for Latvia.
It's actually awarded in the Australian Ice Hockey League.
What?
Yeah, the good old cup is awarded to the winner of the Australian Ice Hockey League, and the first knowledge of it being awarded was 1911.
How do we have ice hockey in Australia?
I don't know. This is this is how it goes. This is the stats that I pick up along the way.
People were dying of polio, and you're telling me they had ice hockey rings?
Yeah, you know it. This is the rich get richer, right? And the poor get polio.
sure that's how it works, but all right, we'll go with it. All right.
So it was first awarded to New South Wales, and here's a little bit of a family connection for you. The captain of the New South Wales of the team was Jim Kendall.
No way. Interesting.
Yeah, so you got to jump on Ancestry and see if you're related to the first ever recipient of the Goodall Cup.
It's cool. Let's look it up. Yeah, there's not that many people with that name. Okay, good stuff.
So, yeah,
all right, I think that was a good bit of quiz. I like it. It had an educational element as well, and I really do need it if I'm going to try and participate in a hockey podcast. I really probably should know a bit more about hockey. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up. Any kind of final shout-outs or any final words of encouragement you want to send to both the locker room and for the managers?
Yeah, last day of the first week tomorrow, so big day, important day. Let's make sure you put in 100% to win those matchups, and we'll catch you next week. Looking back at the first week that was.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
All right. See ya.